Hello, everyone. Welcome to Call to Action. My name is Delegate Lesley Lopez. I am a professional yapper, a frustrated Democrat, trying to find some meaning or something to make us all feel better and to give us purpose in a time where everything feels like it's going crazy. And I can't think of anyone better to join us today than Alex Cascio, who you probably follow on all of the socials already. But she is someone who is so creative, so smart about topics, just really an inspiration for anyone who wants to do progressive work and comms work, and someone who, frankly, I just kind of wanted to talk to this week when everything feels like there's craziness, someone who gives me hope. So, Alex, thank you for joining us.
That is so sweet. Give me like the big hype up right off the top. It's weird too, because like doing this work just like as a progressive content creator, in a lot of ways, it feels like I just stumbled into success. Like I just
Mhm.
started making some videos and then they gained traction. And I was like, whoa, this is a thing I can do. So I'm constantly like shocked every day, like imposter syndrome. Like, wait, I'm
Mhm.
going up to Congress to go like interview reps. Me? I'm just
Yeah.
some little guy. Um, But it's a lot of fun work for sure.
So I'm glad that you mentioned imposter syndrome because there's times when I feel like, oh my gosh, that's totally me. I have it. And other times where I think I don't have imposter syndrome. I am just living in a world that doesn't really give credit to people like me. Like like, there's, Alana Mayer has this a clip that went around, like, maybe a year ago, and she was like, "I heard about imposter syndrome," and I was like, no, can't be me, like, that's not." I go back and forth with it, but regardless, you have been, a really successful content creator on the left side. You go to, like, the front lines of rallies and protests and put a spotlight on really what's happening there. You add great commentary and, like, just, you're basically being a witness to history for a lot of folks who can't make it to DC, whether it's just, like, they're not from this area or it's just, like, too much, like,
Yeah.
as someone who has a couple jobs and a couple kids, like, so it's hard for me sometimes to make it to all those places that I wanna be, but I wanna show support. Um, so let's get started at the beginning, like, how did you find out that content creation was a thing that you were good at and that you wanted to make your livelihood?
Yeah. So I didn't start out in politics as a content creator. I got involved in just community organizing back in my hometown of Flint, Michigan during the water crisis, which is, of course, was a wake up call to a lot of folks, especially in the community, that, like, there's problems in our government. A lot of them are systemic and need change. So I came from that background. And then in 2022, I was working on the Reproductive Freedom for All campaign in Michigan, which was a ballot initiative to create a constitutional amendment to legalize reproductive rights, whether it's abortion, birth control, all of it. We've seen a lot of states do this now, but Michigan was one of the first. And while I was working on that campaign, I just started filming videos about it. And I didn't expect them to go anywhere. I had a TikTok at the time that was mostly just like dumb videos of my dog. Like maybe something would get like 300 views. So I thought it was just, kind of for fun. But then it actually started getting traction. And I realized people actually really wanted to see this content, especially content about what's going on at the local level, and particularly content that gives them a way to get involved. Like
Mhm.
when I was on that campaign, it was very simple of just like, hey, here are volunteer opportunities. You can phone bank, you can come knock doors, you can donate to the campaign. Or when we were still in the signature collection phase to get it on the ballot, it's like, here's where you can go get petitions or go sign or go help collect signatures. And I think, especially in that moment following the overturn of Roe, a lot of people had that rage that they wanted to channel into some sort of action in their communities. And that's something I've especially been trying to focus back in on this year with Trump back in office, just giving people tangible things they can do. Or like you said, highlighting protest actions and things that community activists are doing on the ground to show like, look, these are just everyday people getting involved in their communities. If they can do it, you can too. Maybe not the same way, but this is really a team effort and we need all boots on the ground right now. So if I can inspire just a few people to action, I feel like I've done a good job.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I named this newsletter, Substack, whatever you wanna call it, whatever mediums it takes, call to action, because I think it's easy to feel very disconnected right now and to just hyper normalize everything that's going on in the world because our brains need that. Like,
Yeah.
we're not I was talking to someone the other day, and their husband was, like, a cognitive neurologist, which is, like, I think probably, like, too smart for me even to, like, what that is. But essentially, they were saying that, like, we are made to evolve and adapt, but we're not made to adapt this quickly. Like, this happens over, like, hundreds of
Yeah.
years, not in, like, 5 years. We're meant to be eating berries in a cave, and now we have these devices where we can get exposed to every horrible thing that's going on in the world all of the time. So how do you get, like, purpose in that? And, I found as a state lawmaker that it's really, really hard to get national attention about anything. Like, even with the big abortion bill that you were so kind to help spotlight a few months ago, like, that has national implications, but the scale of it just isn't, like, sexy, for lack of a better word, to national media, right? But with social media, we can each become our own kind of content creators and, like, talk to our communities and connect with people and showcase there actually are some good things going on in the world, and you can be a part of them too. Like, the
Yeah.
things that you find inspiring, like, you can, like, the most basic basic way to do things is just, like, share a story on social media that you connect with. Um, a really great piece of news this week that I'm gonna be talking about until I'm blue in the face is in New Mexico. They just, passed legislation. Michelle Lujan Grisham, the governor of New Mexico, just signed into law free childcare. Like, it
Wow. I
can be
hadn't even heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, so Michelle Lujan Grisham is kind of my former boss because she was a Hispanic caucus member when I was there, and she's just, like, the loveliest person. Like, I know members of Congress get a bad rap, but, like, she's lovely, she's smart. She is totally, like, the showcase of what happens when you elect smart people with lived experience, i.e., like, moms and parents
Yeah.
and, like, people who've had to deal with some stuff into these positions because, um, she's showing it can be done. Like, it
Yeah.
just takes that priority. Um, and so that was a long way of saying there is still good things out there in
Yeah.
the world, things that people can do, and the more we can give people specific items, give them specific pieces of news, and do it in a way that, meets them where they're at, the more likely we are to be successful. Uh
100%. Especially like even before Trump came back, there's already for years now a lot of frustration with Congress for those reasons because it's like the only things you ever hear about actually getting done are bad, or most of the time it's just a standstill. Nothing's ever really happening. And people kind of look right past what's happening in their state house, where a lot of state governments are actually pushing through really great legislation. Flip side, there's like
mhm,
Texas where it's terrible legislation,
mhm. There's some
but a
down
lot happens there.
mhm,
And I think people also just have a habit of checking out outside the major election years. Like right now, we have even running for congressional, like federal seats, we have some really great progressive candidates running in primaries that need
mhm,
support. But people check out until those candidates have already lost their primary, and you're stuck with maybe the more centrist candidate that
mhm,
you're bored of, you're sick of, you're complaining about.
mhm,
So how do we keep people consistently engaged? And I think social media is a huge factor in that because we break through into their feed, especially if you can give it like a fun twist, like
mhm,
tackle it with humor. Um, this is another reason, like I've just been saying in general, the Democrats are doing, and just like the left in general is doing a lot better of working with content creators, but they're kind of already focusing on content creators like me, who my entire thing is politics. The people that
mhm,
follow me are already, for the most part, somewhat informed. They're already somewhat on my side.
mhm,
If you want to break out to new people, you need to engage with creators like across the spectrum, right? Like
mhm,
work with some fitness bro and then
mhm,
just like do a workout with him and then like, hey, maybe chat about healthcare, right? Like, um, we need to be more creative about how we're breaking through because the right has done that very, very well. They're able to keep their voters informed and engaged between election cycles.
mhm,
And the left very often fumbles the ball on that. Like, when you look at the numbers of who actually heard about the big, beautiful bill,
Mhm.
even though we were putting out so much messaging on that, it's kind of depressing how many, like, Americans just still don't even know what it is or that it's happening, and they won't for years until, like, the worst of it starts going into effect.
Yeah, all those cuts. Mhm. No, 100%, and I realize the irony of me saying this as someone on their own Substack right now, but I see my colleagues of the Dem communication persuasion talking about like the next Joe Rogan or like who's our Joe Rogan, like we need to create podcasts and for like our people and our messages. It's like you're missing the point. Okay, you have to go where people are, where pop
Yeah.
culture is, and make the connection between how we live our lives and the policies and the politics that are shaping that, right? I think and I also say this, like, knowing the irony of being like a communications professor, like we we on the Dem side get a little bit like lofty and we're here to like educate people and inform people when we really just need to be connecting with them,
Yeah.
like
That's something I've been, particularly after events of the past week and watching just misinformation start spreading from both sides so quickly. I've already, like, we all know misinformation's a problem, right? Like, and I had already come to the realization that, especially with the right, they've been so primed for right wing, if not misinformation, disinformation, just like talking points, that they just balk when they hear the left wing opinions. And I think, looking at it now, the big thing that the right does so well is they're not aiming to educate, they're aiming to inspire an emotional response, pretty much with all of their messaging and their rhetoric. And they do it so well. And it might not be entirely factual, but when you look at Democratic messaging or even messaging briefs I'll get when they're trying to work with me as a creator, a lot of it is like hit on all of these like fact bulletins and stuff. And it's like, that's not going to sway anyone in this day and age. Like, you need to just go for the emotional, the impact, the direct connection to that person. Um, and then if they'll come along, then you can get into deeper explanations. But I think, and it sounds horrible, but it's the reality of the situation where it's like we need to dumb things down straight
Mhm.
up. And when it comes to like the left's Joe Rogan, that one infuriates me just because Joe Rogan isn't a political podcaster. He's
Yeah,
a dude bro podcaster who sometimes talks about politics. Like,
yeah,
people were saying like, oh, it could be Hassan Piker. No, Hassan Piker already is too political. He's a political persona. You
yeah.
need to start reaching into these spaces that are political adjacent or not political at all.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, like, again, the right has done this phenomenally, especially with like fitness content. You'll start getting like touches and lean in and
I'm
the
also
algorithm will start shifting
like
you.
the wellness moms and Make America Healthy Again. Like, I often think, like, maybe as someone who's on health and government operations and deals with healthcare policy, I need to be leaning into making more content to counter that. I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
a healthcare professional, but I can talk about, what it's like to hear testimony about raw milk every year.
yeah.
I mean, it's dog food. That's what it
And
is.
just doing like lifestyle, even like
Mhm.
debunking, like, that's like an unfilled niche right now. Like, oh, look, all these people are talking about like the benefits of raw milk. Let's look at it. Is it true? Or like this new diet, this new fad. Like, that's the kind of content you'll start like sucking in a normal audience.
Mhm.
And then you can start like giving them the tidbits of like progressive policy talking points. But I think Democrats too often in their messaging, like, they're having a struggle of breaking from mainstream traditional media, and they don't understand on the internet, you've got in a video, a single video, you've got 3 seconds to grab a viewer before they scroll away. If you
Mhm.
don't hook them in that first 3 seconds, they're scrolling. If you come in with like a super long-winded art like explanation about like what Medicaid cuts mean, you're not gonna get that. Like, short, grabby, emotional is what works online. And like I said, the right has done that so well, and we are playing catch up. And I
Mhm.
think my biggest fear is like some Democrats are doing it better than others. And I think a lot of that comes down to like age, frankly. But there are some Democrats that are like still very skeptical of working with content creators because it's a narrative they can't control. And it's like, you need to give up this idea that like there's going to be a perfectly curated message from a
Mhm.
content creator endorsing you or whatever, and just get on board with the fact that's like, we have the same message. You might not like how I say it, but I am trying to promote you. I am trying to help you win because I see the bigger picture here. Um, and yeah, it's frustrating times.
Yeah, I just saw a comment that said Democrats bring a data sheet to a knife fight, and that is
100%
100%
though.
true.
Like,
As someone who is on the receiving end of data sheets and they're labeled talking points, from, various different organizations, like, yes, 100%. How do you balance being informative with being entertaining? Like, what kinda works for you and your style of content creation?
so I think it depends on the video. Because like I said, I know at this point most of my audience, they're following me because they have some interest in politics already. So I know I have that groundwork. But when I'm trying to just be like goofy and brings people in, I'll do like shorter bits. Like I don't know if you saw the video I did, but Alexander Hamilton was trending
I was
over
gonna
the
say,
past month.
'cause I saw that you bought the
I
costume.
got the costume
That's
and I
adorable.
did I did the walking around with, It's Quiet Uptown playing, and I did it in front of the National Guard in DC,
Mhm.
and that, like, went super viral just because, like, it's so ridiculous. So, I do try to bring some of that into it, and it's been a minute since I was actually thinking about this the other day. It's like, I haven't just done, like, a funny skit in a couple months just because the news cycle's been so crazy. But I like doing skits and things where I'm kind of making fun of a political topic or a dumb argument from the right and just taking like a satirical approach and just bringing humor to it. Because when it brings in a broader audience, and also I think it's important to point out how some of the arguments like the right throws out are just comically bad. Um, and to delegitimize them. So I try to, just use humor and like more fun energy to bring in like a wider audience. And then once I have you, I'm going to give you a sit down explanation about why we need universal health care.
No, absolutely. I get it. I get it. Um, how do you, like, prioritize your ideas? Like, is it, because I always feel like I sit down and I have this, like, tornado of ideas, and then I have
Mhm.
to, like, I have my little notepad, like, my brain dump, where this will not make sense to anyone because half of it's scratched out, and then, like, I try to strategize, like, "Okay, this is what the week's gonna look like or the month's gonna look like." Like, what's your process look like?
So honestly, even planning things out for the week has kind of gone out the window for me the past few months. Unless like
Mhm.
there's a big rally or something I know is happening, I'll make sure in my head. Like this Friday, there's a march actually happening from Philadelphia to DC, and it's culminating in a rally in DC on Friday.
Mhm.
Um, so I'll be out on the ground covering that. But usually it's just day by day. Like I'm checking news alerts multiple times a day, to just see what's going on, see what needs to be reported on, um, and taking it one day at a time. And then if it's kind of a slow news day, I also have a ton of notes with just random ideas. I'll like scroll through that and be like, do I finally have time to do like a funny little thing? Um, so, and sometimes I'm just inspired by like just stupidity in the news. Like you'll see a dumb headline of just like, MAGAs want to ban cats. Like, and he's like, okay, well, this I can just riff on and make fun of it. So,
Yeah, like the whole litter box in classrooms things, it's like,
yeah.
like, come on now.
But
It's
the news cycle these days, it's so rapid, it's really hard to like plan out content. Like, gosh, it's already halfway through September. And in my head, my September through November plan was to really start focusing on local elections, especially because there's so much going up in Virginia.
Mhm.
Um, And I've barely touched on that in my content yet, just because, like, there's something crazy happening in the news every single day. So, um, it can get hard to structure, but I think it's also been beneficial because I've gotten very adaptive. Like, I hear, "Oh, crap, this thing's, like, popping off down in the city, like, go downtown and cover it," or big news story drops, like, I kind of already know in my head, like, how I'm going to tackle it when something just big drops and I need to get
Mhm.
something up immediately. And
Yeah.
that's what's happening these days. I mean, stories die out so quickly in the news. Like,
Mhm.
already we had, um, everything that happened last week, and, like, there's still some chatter about it, but I already see it dying down, and, like, that's the kind of story that if it would have happened a decade ago, we'd be talking about it for months in the news.
It's true. It's
Like,
true. And I mean, the whole Charlie Kirk thing is crazy to me because it's like the embodiment of so many different things that we talk about. Like there's the whole misinformation, disinformation thing.
yeah,
And you're seeing people in very credible positions iterating things like facts that maybe have been confirmed, maybe have not been, but they don't really relate to a motive. It's
yeah.
just like, for example, the trans roommate. Like
Mhm.
possibly, like, I've had a million roommates,
Yeah.
and some of
It's
them have
also
been real weirdo.
college living. It could have gotten, like, set up.
Yeah, so it's
Like
like
and you're seeing the same thing, like, I've honestly been kind of frustrated with, like, even, like, some people I know, like, personally putting out this messaging now that, "Oh, he was a right-wing groyper and all of this." I'm like, "He could have been." Um, but we don't know that, like, even the people saying now, like, "Oh, he was, like, an ultra right-winger." It's like, yeah, he very well could have been, but even that's not confirmed, and it's almost disappointing to see, like, we knew the right was gonna do that. We know Donald Trump's personality. He's gonna immediately blame radical leftists. For us to just fight that with the other side with nothing confirmed, just feels unproductive to me,
mhm,
especially when we don't know. But I feel like we've just crossed a tipping point here. Like I said, like, facts don't matter because
mhm,
it could come out today, like, a full manifesto saying, like, "Yes, I'm, like, hardline leftist, all of this stuff," or vice versa, "I'm hard wing, like, ultra white, hated Charlie Kirk for not being racist enough." Either could come out, but, like, you've already put out this messaging to either side where, like, they're gonna believe their own narrative. It
mhm,
literally doesn't matter. Forever for the right, he was a leftist, and forever for the left, he was an ultra right winger. Like, it's not gonna matter when it comes out. And
mhm,
this is where I kind of feel like the left just needs to accept the reality of misinformation and not put out misinformation ourselves, but like play to that more emotional messaging, like I said, where like, how can we just hook someone, deal with the explanations later? Um, because I don't know, it's just scary times. And you saw the day after there were like numerous threats being called in to historically black colleges and universities. Uh,
yeah, and it was like, this occurred in Utah,
yeah. Right.
presumably, like, by
White
allegedly
guy
by
shoots a white guy in Utah, and somehow it's black people's fault.
yeah,
That's
I think
very
Utah
American of us.
is statistically the least, like, diverse in terms of, like,
Yeah,
African American to other,
yeah.
demographic or, like, ethnicities, right? Um Like, how does that have anything to do like, it just meanwhile, we talk about stories that aren't getting coverage. 2 men have been hung
Yeah,
in Mississippi within 24 hours.
and
It's
it was ruled, yeah, like Trey Reed, it was ruled, I can't remember the wording for it, but, like,
like no funny
not
business.
suspicious. Yeah, no
Yeah,
funny business. And it's like, if that's a suicide, that's a very strange way for a black man to do that. Like, as an African American in this country, you're aware of the context of that in Mississippi.
yeah,
It's just I don't buy it. Like, and yeah, like that's not gonna get nearly as much chatter. But again, that's also where we're at because even a story like that, I think a decade ago would have gotten way more news coverage. It
mhm,
just would have. But we blow past things. I mean, the amount of people this week that forgot about Melissa Hortman in Minnesota, right? They're like, "Who's Melissa Hortman?" Because it was
mhm.
2 months ago, right?
It's
It's
true. It feels like a generation ago in terms of news cycles because so
Mhm.
much heaviness has happened in between. I remember when everything went down with Melissa Hortman, talking to our sergeant of arms and trying to figure out like what safety procedures were in place, like what should we do. I called my local police precinct and did the right protocol. Like as elected folks, if someone makes a threat against your life, it's like an added criminal penalty
yeah,
to right? But because it's considered a political or it should be, unless it's like domestic, like you've got
yeah,
issues, right? Like, so like there's that. But like swatting is a real thing. So making sure that the local police has your information recorded as a place where like if if there's a swatting or like be on alert, this could be a target for swatting. Um, and you go through that rigmarole, and then 2 months later, we're getting the same emails about make sure your local police knows how to do this, go through this training, how to like and so, it feels like a lifetime ago, but it was only 2 months ago we were doing the same safety procedures.
Yeah.
So
It's
how do you, as somebody who is literally on the front lines, like you're literally going to, right-wing spaces, you were at CPAC, like you're interviewing people, you're in the trenches, you're also chronically online. You have to be, right? How do you preserve your mental health and your sense of joy right now?
well, honestly, ironically, like, even, like, going to the events, talking to right-wingers and stuff, um, there's usually at least a couple people where I have a conversation that actually gives me some hope, where it's like, "We agree we need higher wages. We agree that healthcare needs to be improved in this country. We agree that people should be able to live their lives how they see fit as long as they're not harming others. We agree on those core principles, but something has just convinced them that, like, somehow the Republicans are the party that will do that for them."
Mhm,
Those ones actually give me hope on that side because it's like the clarity of not everyone who voted for Donald Trump, and not even everyone that, like, goes to the rallies and the events are those hardline ultra MAGAs. There are people that can be reached if the right people in their lives are having a conversation. So I actually come out, like, a little bit hopeful when I get to have those conversations. And then on the left, when I'm at protests and stuff here, it's just so uplifting to see, like, no, there are so many people that are driven and actually fighting back and doing something. And I think it's so easy to lose that when, again, the news cycle, it's crazy, it's horrific. Every single day, there's a million horrible things going on locally, state level, nationally. But then you actually go out and talk to people in your community and see, like, real people are doing dedicated work. Most of them have been doing it for decades before Trump was even on the scene.
mhm,
It's kind of that, like, step back moment or that, like, go touch some grass moment of just like,
mhm,
no, they, like, there's more than the news cycle that you're seeing on your social media feed. There are real people out here who, like, care and are doing good work. Um, so that definitely brings joy. And then otherwise, I have to, like, consciously tell me like, this past weekend, I was feeling really burnt out, and I had to consciously tell myself, it's like, "You're just gonna chill this weekend. Like, you don't have to I don't have to respond to every single news story. No one's gonna unfollow me because I didn't post about a certain story that happened." Just, like, basically forcing myself to check out and just relax, which, has been harder this past few months with Trump back than probably at any other point of me doing content, just because again, there's so much happening all the time. Um, but I'm starting to get better at it of just like, nope, I'm not gonna make a post. I'm gonna sit on my couch and read a book,
mhm,
or go hike in the woods or just do something. It's okay to turn off. And it's crazy too. Like I find it hard for myself, but I tell my followers all the time, it's like, if you burn out now, you're useless. Like this is a marathon, not a sprint. Even if we get Trump out of office, even 2028, it's the dream scenario. We've elected a super progressive Democrat. It's AOC for president. We've
mhm,
got Congress and Senate that's going to back her, and we're going to get universal health care. Like, there's still going to be a fight ahead there, right? We're going to because we also need to think about, like, what are our values? It's not just the stuff we're against Donald Trump doing, like, what are our values and what do we wanna see for this country? That's gonna take decades. Like, if we want things like universal healthcare, universal childcare, raising the minimum wage, actually taxing the wealthy their fair share, taking on corporate landlords, all of these progressive ideas, this is gonna take decades in the making. And it's so much more important that you sustain yourself for the long haul fight
mhm,
than sprint towards the finish line and burn out before we get there. Um, we
mhm,
can't have people check out after Trump's out of office. And that's my biggest fear. That was my biggest fear if Kamala had won. And the messaging I was going to be putting out, it's just like, hey guys, a lot of you, especially on the further left, had very valid complaints about Kamala Harris.
mhm,
If you want change in the party, you can't check out now. Like, you need to keep at it. This is sustainable action. And it's another thing, like, throughout American history, we see the conservatives do so well, right? after the Civil War, we had a slate of amendments giving the vote to African American men, at least, making these moves. You had Black people in the South voting and electing members to Congress right after the Civil War. And then immediately you see that pushback because the conservatives don't lose energy. They stay in it. Like
Mhm.
our side on the left, we did it after the civil rights movement as well. It's like, yay, we desegregated. Black people can vote. We're all good. And then you see the prison industrial complex explode. You see racist housing practices just learn how to adapt to the new laws. All of these things we're seeing now in the past couple decades, like chipping away at the Voting Rights Act. Like the conservatives keep their eye on the ball, where it's like the Democrats, we get a win and we're like, yay, we did it, guys. Let's go home. We can't
Mhm.
go home, especially if we want a more progressive future. Like we have to learn how to keep people engaged and actually stay in it. So if that means you take a nap or you take a month off right now, whereas like I'm not going to look at the news to preserve my mental health, do that
Mhm.
because we need you in this for years. So like take the break. It's okay.
Yeah. As you said that and looked into the camera, I absorbed it right into my heart because I've been trying to figure out what I can do. I used to just go walk around Target and disassociate, and now I can't even do that. Target, they've taken away
I know they
Target
took Target from
from
us.
our middle-aged suburban moms. They took Target from us. So yeah, so I'm working on it. I'm
I
not.
like hiking, especially places where I don't have a cell signal because then it's like you can't check notifications even if you want to.
That is so smart. I know that I'm gonna be spending time outdoors door knocking pretty soon, and as much as that can be very stressful for people, like, not everyone wants to canvas, for me, I've always found it to be a very meditative
Yeah.
process. And, when you're a candidate, people are usually a little bit more open to chatting with you. So it's like Jordan
Yeah.
has always worked out well for me. And I know now that it's getting cooler, I'm going to be out there and you can't see, but I've like two giant boxes of walk cards that are like ominously looking at me like, take me out. Um,
I think more people should knock doors though, because I think a lot of what we're missing, in fact, I put out a Substack. It was a collaboration with Feel Good Action this past Wednesday, I think. But I put out a Substack talking about this. It's like we don't have these face-to-face conversations with people anymore about politics, especially not the other side. And I think it's really dehumanized politics, right? Like it's not normal to just assume Republicans are enemies of America and fascist and all of these things. Some of them definitely are. But like for like your neighbor who has a Trump 2024 bumper sticker, he's probably not actually that extreme. Just try striking up a conversation. You'll be surprised how polite people are when you just come to them empathetically. Don't yell at him and be like, what the fuck's up with the sticker? Just be like,
Mhm,
hey, I saw your sticker. I'm just curious. Like, what was it about Trump for you?
mhm,
Just come with that attitude of like listening and you will be shocked how quickly like they'll mirror that and they'll be more receptive to listening to you. You're probably not going to change their mind in one conversation, but you start building that repertoire. That's how you
mhm,
start pushing the needle on an individual level. And
mhm,
also just start humanizing the other side because we've lost that. Are there horrible people in the mag movement? Yeah,
mhm,
obviously. Like there's some people that are unredeemable. Um, but I think it's so easy and both sides do this to equate that to everybody and it's just not the case.
mhm.
So I think everybody should be required to go door knock at least once, and just
Anyone
like
can door
talk
knock
to
me.
people.
Consider this a recruitment. This is one of your call to actions. You can always door knock for me if you wanna kick the tires on it. Um,
I I love door knocking. I'm one of those freaks. I'm like, I prefer that to phone banking because like phone banking, they hang up and they get like snotty because like you called them at like they're at dinner, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
I mean, I yeah, I think, door knocking is great. Probably my second choice is doing texting, right? The
Yeah,
peer-to-peer texting. Although it can be tricky because texting is kind of like a version of like, people commenting on a post because it's like you're maybe a real person, maybe you're not. So I'm gonna
yeah,
let it go. When I was running for Congress, we did lots of texting and I saved, some of the horrible, nasty things that were said, and you try to have a thick skin about it, but sometimes it's very personal. Other times it's so ridiculous, you're just like, "You gotta see this. This is."
I think people are thinking like it's a robot, and I
Mhm.
almost wonder what would happen if you replied and be like, "Sorry for bugging you. This is a real person, by the way." Like,
I do. There was
yeah.
one person who was, like, quoting song lyrics,
Mm,
and I responded back with, like, a reference to the band that they were talking about, and the tone immediately changed. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a real person." Like, "Do you wanna call me?" Like, I'll call you. It's not
yeah.
like I used to, when I was working on gun bills, people would write in little nasty, little spicy emails, and
Mhm.
if it felt like they were, like a reasonable Second Amendment person, like, not someone who's gonna, like,
Right.
have a personal threat, like, if it was gonna escalate, I would call them, and it's funny because if you look at, like, the influence of the NRA, you would think that, like, all Second Amendment people are totally unreasonable. Some of them are, right? Like, some
Yeah.
of them are, like, drunk the Kool-Aid, but a lot of times they're just impressed that someone who's a Democrat and a lefty has taken the time to learn about the thing that they're interested in, and they're like, "Well, I disagree with you on how you see this problem, but I really just respect the fact that you've done the work and you're not just
Yeah.
talking points." And so, I think there's a direct relationship with politics being so polarized and divided, along with our community, like the sense of community being broken down, like the more
Yeah.
individualistic we are. And also just like the stigma of like talking about politics.
Yeah.
Right? Um, like, I'm a parent, I have a son that we do play dates with, and it's always like, I have to manage a little bit, like, how I break the news, and I'm like, "By the way, I'm your state legislator," you know what I mean? Like, you have to kind of feel it out first to be like, "Okay, is this person gonna be like, 'Oh, politics,' and shut down, or
Yeah.
are they gonna have a very strong opinion?" Um, Mostly, I say like, "Oh, I'm your state legislator," and they're like, "Have you noticed the new stop sign that came out? I got a real bone to pick." And I'll be like, "Okay, let me write this down. County issue. Let me talk to the county." Like, I had a play date this weekend and I broke the news and they were like, "Actually, can you tell us why we have these like no right turn on red signs now? I don't know what's going on, but I see them everywhere." And I was like, "You know what? I've noticed them as well. Let me figure out who with, Montgomery County Department of Transportation, like what the incident was." But that's the job and that's really what
Yeah.
people care about. And I think kind of like taking a step back, the more we as local, like state and local elected people can use our platforms to connect with our constituencies, to create community, the better off we are. Because, like, I'm going to be knocking on your door. Your member of Congress probably won't be. They
Nope.
might be hosting town
Yeah.
hall, but like, I'm there and like I'll be knocking with a whole group of, teenagers wearing a shirt, like trying to get their, community credit hours, right? Um, but, like, we've just kind of we've lost that, and most people are not really hardcore Dems or hardcore Republicans. Most people are purple, and they
Yeah.
have 1 or 2 issues that are very personal to them because of their lived
Yeah.
experience.
That's
Um
something I say all the time is most people aren't paying attention to politics at all, except for when the major election comes around and they've got like one or two things they care about. Or, I mean, there are people that vote straight up just on vibes of just like,
Mhm,
well, Donald Trump's funny. And so
mhm,
they vote for the funny orange guy. Like, there are people that's really that simple for them. But I also think when it comes to like, you're talking about like community kind of going away, I think it's not just the way that our elected officials interact with the public, but it's also like cultural, right? Like we talk all
mhm,
the time about how third spaces are going away, like the concept of like the bar in your neighborhood where everyone hangs out with, whether it's just like financially priced out, too busy, everyone's just online. Um, and we're seeing that especially um escalating past COVID of just like our social spheres are more online and that gives you
mhm,
a distorted picture of what your community is.
mhm,
So I encourage everybody, like, actually, again, just go out and touch some grass, right? Like, go to a protest, a community organizing event, something where you're just like chatting with people about politics, even like minded people. Um, I think it gives you a unique perspective, and it just dials down the insanity meter that's constantly online. Because that's the thing you have to remember too when you're looking at content online, the craziest stories are what's gonna go viral. Like, I had that interview with you talking about your bill. It's fantastic legislation, right? Like, we need abortion funding at the state level. We need abortion funding wherever we can get it right now. Um, and I think, like, maybe, like, it did not get a lot of views. I can't remember how many, I'd have to go back and check. And I've noticed that a lot with, like, anytime I do good news content,
Mhm.
I'll get, like, a fraction of my regular views compared to when I talk about, like, "Yo, this really crazy fucked up thing happened." Because that's
Mhm.
what the algorithm pushes the most outrageous, right?
Mhm.
Um, consistently. So, like, I think people, especially on the left, kind of get this attitude of like, well, misinformation, that's a right wing problem. Fake news, that's a them problem. We are also susceptible to it, right?
Mhm.
I do think it happens more on the right just because the people in power and the establishment on the right are more invested in it and
Mhm.
less caring about like the messaging, like we talked about earlier. Um, but just like have in your mind, like what you're seeing on your social media feed. Not to say it's not a factual story, but just like if all you've seen is bad news all day, that's not reflective of reality, right? There are
Mhm.
people doing good work. Um, they just don't get the clicks and they don't make it into your feed.
Mhm. No, it's so true, and I get nervous for younger folks who've grown up where their whole sense of community is really online, right?
Mhm.
As a mom of 2 little boys, I see, like, th the benefit of, like, giving them exposure to, like, gaming and things like that, and, like,
Mhm.
having like, understanding, like, who these Twitch streamers are that their friends are talking about or whatever. However, like, um if you're only exposed to, like, negative content and you're only exposed to stuff that's, like, either misinformation or intended to persuade you in one way or another that's not regulated, like, there's no journalism ethics that
Yeah.
are taught for content and, like and, to your earlier point, the right just has more experience investing in this space, so they're just more sophisticated in
Yeah.
understanding it. But I get really nervous for folks who haven't, like, generations that haven't seen, the different levels of this, right? If you're being born and you're, like, reaching adulthood, right, at, like, peak acuity of, the saturation, then it's gonna be really tough.
I think honestly we are at like one of those turning points in humanity with just this rapid explosion of the internet. And like it sounds dramatic, but I fully believe this. Like when you look at like the extent of human history, you have those big pivotal moments, right? Like the invention of agriculture and then later the Columbian exchange with, Columbus discovering a continent where millions of people already lived. But like and all of a sudden like that creates like a global economy and that shifts everything rapidly. I think we're at another one of those pivotal points when it comes to the internet because I know you touched on it. Like our brains aren't meant to consume this much information in a day. It's not normal. Humans are also very social creatures. That means one-on-one social, not like chatting with your AI bot. Um, like it's a rapid change, and I think we're already starting to see part because technology, but I think it's this technology boom combined with late stage capitalism. We're seeing so much tension globally, right? Like it's not just the United States. Nepal just burned down their parliament. You just had a massive march in the UK hosted by Tommy Robinson, this like absolute white supremacist right wing talking head along that vein. Um, you're seeing it in Italy. Italy's really bad right now. Like globally, we're seeing these tensions escalate. And I think we're gonna have just like a really tense few decades as humanity learns to grapple with it. And it's going to be a moment of like, okay, how do we intervene in a way that preserves like the free speech information sharing nature of the internet how do we intervene at all when we have massive tech companies lobbying to be left alone? Um, it's just very tense times, and I don't know a solution other than just stay informed, stay engaged, and again try to get offline sometimes, and take the internet with a grain of salt. Which again, I think, like if you're on the right, you're like, no, left wing, that's fake news. If you're on the left, you're like, no, it's them. We're all susceptible to it, and I think we all have to like do better at recognizing that. Um, and like if you see a story that's just outrageous, maybe go look at a couple extra sources. Like that's usually my bar. Like the crazier a story is, the more sources I'm going to check to verify that this is true.
Mhm.
Um, because it's just so easy to twist things. But yeah, I think we're in a very scary time, not just as Americans, but like in global history, where I
Mhm.
don't know where this goes, but I feel
Mhm.
like we're gonna have a rough few years before we make it out the other side.
Yeah. I was watching someone, it might have been what's his name? Ryan Holiday, the
Yeah.
stoicism guy.
I don't know if I'm familiar.
Oh, he's like I'm sh you would know exactly who I'm talking about if you,
I
like,
might know his face. I'm terrible at
yeah,
names.
he's got, like he's probably, like, elder millennial, kinda brownish hair, kinda tall and lanky guy.
Okay.
He's, like, podcaster, right? He's all over the place. Um, and I think it was him that was like, "Listen, throughout all of human history, there have been really dark moments, dark times of struggle, right? And
Mm.
so this seems somewhat unfamiliar to us because we've had relatively stable lives, but, like, the human existence has always had these big
Yeah.
tumultuous eras of change. For us, it feels like a big tumultuous era of change because, you know, so much of our infrastructure, whether it be economic, political, government, technological, all everything is just changing so quickly, and so it feels, um, overwhelming, but, maybe it will take us a couple 100 years to evolve, but it's not going anywhere, right? So
Yeah.
figure out how to come on top. Okay. I've been chatting with you for almost an hour now. Um, Anything else that you think our viewers should watch or should be well, I guess should watch or like people they should be following,
Mhm.
um things they should be hopeful about, words of wisdom for aspiring content creators who might be watching. Um any, shade you wanna throw on your haters, now is the time.
Fuck Donald Trump. Um, well, I would say just like if you're not yet involved in your community, I know it can feel overwhelming. Like I get DMs all the time. It's just like, where do I even start? And then they'll tell me like what town they're in, and it's like middle of nowhere, Nebraska, right? First, there are existing community organizations that you can start looking at, like Democratic Socialists of America, Working Families Party, Move On, Indivisible, like groups that have national chapters. But also, don't think it has to be this massive political act. Building community can literally just be like join a cooking class, make some friends, and start like talking about issues without even bringing party into it. Just like, how do you feel about like healthcare these days? Like, keep it issues based. Go out of your way to like be building those community spaces back. Literally, just make friends and talk about issues that matter. Maybe like you volunteer at the library in your town, or just you show up to community town halls. Just it doesn't have to be this like crazy act where you're knocking doors every single weekend or like marching in these protests. Um, Literally just developing human connections with the people around you and being able to talk about issues that matter is so huge and so lacking, especially today, that if you're not sure where to start, like that is what I would recommend 100%.
Gotcha, yeah, I mean, find community, and if you
Yeah.
can't find it, create your own, and that's a tough thing to do. I just noticed that there's a couple chats in here that we haven't, um
Oh, I'm so
yeah.
bad at keeping track of comments because I like never do lives anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, heads up, I'm doing this on an iPhone, so my screen is very
I
s
am too.
but
Yeah.
I just wanna say saw one comment, from Emily about the, More Perfect Union thing. Absolutely. If you have not watched the Bernie Sanders Goes to West Virginia,
Mhm.
clip on Perfect Union, I watched it on Instagram this morning. It it speaks to what you were talking about earlier about finding commonality and hope with people. I think, one of the my biggest takeaways from that is that, like, people are just so frustrated with the system,
Yeah.
right? And in this past election cycle, Democrats reflected or represented to people like the establishment or the
Mhm.
institutions, right? And Donald Trump just seems like a disruptor, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the policies, like his policy wonks, we look at those and we're like, "Ooh, this is not the direction we want to go in." But like people, are busy and they're not getting in the trenches with that stuff. It's just he represented on a top line level something very different. And now
100%. 'Cause I volunteered on Bernie's first campaign in 2016 and in 2020, but I remember the 2016 campaign, after Bernie had gotten knocked out of the primary, I was having dinner with some of the old volunteers and stuff. We're all just, like, chatting, and one of them had totally flipped and was, like, all in on Trump, and I'm looking at him like, "Why?" Like, "You get to the issues, it doesn't matter," and, like, it literally for him came down to the anti-establishment thing. Now, that said, I don't believe in the Bernie Bros myth where it's like all these so Democratic socialists went for Donald Trump and flipped like, no. But there
he
were
just
some
stand
of them,
out.
and I think that connection to the average American of just like it's someone anti-establishment is huge. That's why I'm very scared, of this chatter that Gavin Newsom is gonna be the nominee in '28. His memes are hilarious. He's crushing and a dunking on Trump, but he is like poster boy establishment Dem, and I think, if we run him, we're not listening to, like, the broader American public, so, but yeah, I think Bernie Sanders does a good job at that. I think a lot of people are starting to like, even Pete Buttigieg, he's had, like, some dumb comments, but, like, going on the Flagrant podcast and just having a conversation there, I think was
Mhm.
very smart. So some of them are learning, but I'm skeptical. I'm
Yeah.
skeptical until I start seeing nominees.
Yeah, I'm a Democrat because I have to be associated with a party, right, in
Yeah,
order to participate in the system.
yeah,
And I've worked for the Dem party a number of times in different comms roles, and I think there's a lot of good people there. There's a lot of good intents there. There's a lot of success stories there.
yeah,
But, this is a lot of soul searching needs to go down. I think a lot of it has to do with, like, donor relationships too,
yeah,
understanding that, like, donors are important, stakeholder class in all of this.
yeah,
But, like, if the work that we're doing isn't centered around our voters and our communities and the areas that we're hoping to maintain and grow, then, like,
yeah.
it's not the right messaging or it's not the right organizational structure or whatever it might be.
I
Um
wanna say too, when it comes to the Democrats, like, I'm always saying, like, the worst Democrat is always better than, like, the best Republican, right? Especially when you look at policies. Like, during 2024, I would compare Kamala Harris to, like, Taco Bell. Very good. I love Taco Bell, but it's not an authentic Mexican restaurant, right? This isn't, like, quality Mexican food, it's Taco Bell. It's fine, it'll get me through, but it's not, like, what we're aiming for. I think, on the left in general, we have a horrible tendency of judging people for where they're not instead of meeting them where they are.
Mhm,
And sometimes we hold candidates to like these exceptionally high bars. Like, as much as I'm terrified for Gavin Newsom to get the nomination, if he's the nominee, I'll be supporting him full force because, God, we can't have another 4 years of a Republican in office if we want any chance of preserving American democracy. But I think it's like these off cycle years where we really need to be pushing for better. And that's why, again, in your midterms, if you don't have a progressive candidate on your midterm ballot, look for other ones around the country because you can be supporting them, right? I think if we can show a wave of like Zoran Mamdani's across the country, right? Um, in different levels of office, like that's the signal to the party. That's like the early messaging tests of where their attention should be.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, if you have a sweep of progressive candidates winning, and we've already seen this happen. Like people forget, Joe Biden originally was not into student loan forgiveness. When Bernie first started talking about that during 2016, it was like one of those crazy radical lefty things, even for like the Democrats. And then we get to Biden in 2020, he had adopted student loan forgiveness as part of his platform, right?
Mhm.
Because after Bernie, there was like a large swing of other progressives getting elected to office across the country. So it feels so slow and like you're barely moving the needle, but like the party does pay attention to what policies are resonating with the American public. So um, these midterms are going to be incredibly important for just pointing the party in the direction you want them to go in 2028.
Mhm. No, that's a good pivot to, like, the big picture, right? Like, hopefully, we do have a 2028, uh, election, at least for president. I know it's a big TBD, but, Alex, you are a delight. Thank you for chatting,
Thank
for
you for having me.
of course, for a whole hour, and thank you for everyone for participating and for your really great comments. Keep them going. We'll be putting clips up, across all of our socials, and so comment there as well. And if there's other folks that you want me to chat with, yeah, just shoot me an email back and let me know who we need to, include on the mix. So, thank you, Alex. I hope your Alexander Hamilton, uh is clean and ready for the day and wherever the week brings you. And yeah, best of luck with everything.
Yeah, same to you. Have fun knocking doors.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I believe in you.
All right. Hopefully you all believe in me too. All right. Talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.